We owe it to the Deputy President and the integrity of our checks and balances institutions to maintain basic decency in these proceedings. I rest.
In fact,
Council, I cannot tell you how you're going to make your opening statements. If you're going outside the allegations, that's up to you. The senators are here listening, and they'll be able to make the necessary decision at the end of it. Now, Senior Counsel Orengo, there's an environment that you've made that the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, on a certain date that you indicated, traveled to London.
Yes. The evidence is
his sick brother.
Yes.
And on the side of the sickbed, he made his brother sign a will. Is that contained anywhere in the documents from the National Assembly?
My Lord, Mr. Speaker, if you look at volume 4 from the pages that I indicated, right from page 113, it shows what flight he took, at what time, a British Airways flight on the 16th, and arrived in London on the 17th. The only business that comes out from that document and his documents is that he got a will signed, and there is no further evidence of his activities in London until 24th, when the only activity in which he didn't participate was to be present when his brother died in London. But all this I'm saying in relation to the allegations that we have against the Deputy President.
Mr. Speaker, sir.
Council, ordinarily,
Yes.
no objections are raised during the 30 minutes of the opening statement. Ordinarily. I have tried to accommodate, but now you're stretching my generosity a bit too far. Allow Senior Counsel Orengo to conclude. In your opening statement, you may choose to make a rejoinder.
What I want to conclude is this. From what I've said, from the way his brother's account were raided, that was continued to the time when All Life Guidance was acquired for a sale by proxy of 412 million shillings. He bought property in Nyeri, the outspan and treetops for an amount exceeding 800 million shillings. And we're saying part of that money was not money coming from him, and evidence will show that he was raiding monies that truly belonged to the estate of his late brother to acquire property. If that is not an offense by law, these were proceeds of crime committed by the Deputy President to acquire property. And to drive this point home, the judgment by Justice Minor, which is also part of the record, where she made a determination, and that judgment stands, that the 200 million shillings that was found in an account with a financial institution in excess of 200 million shillings were proceeds of crime. And that 200 million shillings, again, the documentation here, if you look at it and we show it in evidence, was the same money that was used to acquire treetops and Aberdares as part of the money that his sons were able to use to acquire those properties. So we are saying that the acquisition of these properties came out of criminal conduct, and all the particulars of the criminal conduct is found in the documents that were presented before the Senate. Now, Mr. Speaker, I think that it is critical that we look at the authority of the office of the Deputy President vis-a-vis that of the President, the doctrine of collective responsibility. And I showed why the office of the Deputy President is so important in carrying certain functions so long as he lives to the true spirit of the Constitution. Many times, and the incidents have been shown, acts of insubordination, like when he issued a press statement in Mombasa after the President himself had issued a statement that went contrary, absolute insubordination to the President, who is his boss. And if really one can talk about insubordination, that was an act of insubordination. Lastly, the other issue that I need to bring out quickly is that the Constitution and the Senate is aware of the fact that at the end of, at every 5 years, you pass a basis for allocation of resources here in the Senate. And they abide by certain principles which are contained in Article 203 of the Constitution. This issue about certain areas being preferred because they're shareholders goes against the very spirit of the Constitution. Or the notion that people can be appointed into government on the basis of how they voted or on the basis that they are shareholders, that is not again borne by the Constitution, because the executive authority that is granted to the executive requires that even in allocation of revenue and appointment of people to serve in the public service must depend on regional balance. So to talk about shareholders, to talk about some people being able to reap on the basis of shareholding, that is repugnant and in conflict with the provisions in our Constitution. Now, Mr. Speaker, I would want to say this with all the seriousness it deserves. This Constitution is supposed to work. It's supposed to work. And it can only work if state officers are compliant with the provisions of the Constitution.
2 minutes to wind up.
Yeah. Well, if they're compliant with the provisions of the Constitution. The doctrine of collective responsibility